This is David Wood speaking, and I'm the Planning and Policy Manager at PAS. And this presentation is for partners in planning. The title of the presentation is Community Engagement, How is this changing and how can we as planners lead? So all the points bullet pointed on this slide where I'm going to be looking at from the perspective of people and community engagement within the planning system and how this has evolved over time. And I'll also be looking to the future of the planning system with regard to community engagement in the context of the current planning reform process. This slide is giving a fairly simplified summary of how we might see the planning systems evolved, with a focus on community engagement and some other key agendas since the planning system was established by an Act of Parliament in 1947. I think it's always important to remember that when the planning system was established, that was done with a focus on acting in the public interest and improving public health. I think this focus maintains within the Scottish planning system today, perhaps with an even greater emphasis on addressing inequality from a Scottish perspective. Let's look at some of the key themes that I've noted and key moments since 1947. So 1947, really, the planning system was established and it nationalised the right to develop land rather than allow individuals to do exactly what they wanted. Obviously, that might impact on people living on the land or neighbours. By the 1970s, following a lot of comprehensive redevelopment, establishment of new towns, there was a feeling perhaps that planning needed to involve communities and individuals more, and that led to the seminal Skeffington report, which made a fairly strong recommendation that in what we now call local development plans had to be focused on community engagement and involving people who were affected by proposals and giving them easy access to be able to have their voices heard within the development plan preparation process. I guess through the 90s, the sustainability agenda was maybe the big theme in planning. And then by 2006, around when I came in, got involved in working in planning, the 2006 Act, first Act, Scottish Planning Act in a while, was being prepared. In my view, that was dual focused on dealing with inefficiency, out-of-date local development plans, but also had a big focus on greater community engagement. And in 2018, where we are today, we have a new planning bill currently going through Parliament. Again, the independent review which led to this Act was certainly very much focused on addressing a perceived housing shortage in Scotland, but it also, as I'll focus on, had a big focus on community involvement and participation. And it also, the narrative, I think, around the preparation of the bill has identified perceived lack of trust from some members of the public and organisations in the planning system. And again, I think the bill seeks to address that. And that's just a picture of the beautifully illustrated Skeffington report, which, as I have emphasised, strongly gave a message of the importance of early engagement in local development plans. It's really worth having a read of this report if you can get your hands on it, and I think it identifies a lot of issues that the planning system is still trying to address today. So next, I thought it would actually be interesting to have a look at what the planning system currently offers members of the public, individuals, other stakeholders in terms of statutory legislation, in terms of opportunities for engagement being offered. I'll quickly run through these. Most people will be aware of these, but I think it's quite interesting to see these written down. So we have neighbour notification. My understanding is that for planning applications, that was introduced in the early 1980s. And that is a key way that people find out about planning applications that might affect them. Also, a proposed plan stage. Since 2009, local authorities have to notify sites. And also, a weekly list of planning applications has to be published. Press advertisements take place for listed buildings, and sometimes when there isn't an opportunity to notify neighbours. In terms of local development plan engagement, there has been a huge focus on that, I think, from planning authorities. Since 2009, secondary legislation stemming from the 2006 Act, that engagement has been focused on the main issues report, although a lot of local authorities also do engagement workshops with a range of stakeholders in a pre-main issues report stage. The 2006 Act also introduced statutory pre-application consultation on major and national planning applications. Again, these are larger applications, which are the scope of which are set in secondary legislation. The one that I always mention is for 50 houses or more. There's a requirement that the developer or applicant does at least one public event, submits a proposal of application notice, invites relevant community council or community councils to the pre-application event, and advertises the proposal in the press. But there have been mixed feelings about how well that system works, but certainly it raises awareness more so than a standard neighbour notification would, and it creates a dialogue potentially between developer and the community. Within the 12-week pre-application process, there's certainly scope to do a lot more than one public event. And also, with regard to community councils, important to remember that they have the opportunity to be a statutory consultee on planning applications. So I think since the 2006 Act, which, as I said, had a big focus on effective community engagement, the planning system in Scotland's continued to evolve. Often this with a focus on community engagement, but often this has perhaps been through non-statutory means. Maybe the music around planning has changed, so that just with a focus on co-production and working with communities, with a big focus on actually how can we involve people better in planning. So most people, planners, will certainly know the word charrette, intensive community engagement process, to come up with a joint stakeholder vision for a site or area, and Scottish Government has put a lot of funding towards that to allow local authorities and community groups to undertake charrettes. Community-led plans, I think, have started in the last 10 years to have a bit more focus within the planning system, although I think they certainly have always been there, and there's always been an ability to produce a community-led plan, but there hasn't necessarily been clarity about what status that plan should have. And quite a big event, I think, in planning in Scotland has been the arrival of the place standard, which we'll talk about a bit more later in the presentation, but that is a very useful tool for a structured dialogue with communities, or done as an individual, about the place that the person or community live in, and is a good way of identifying priorities for change. The e-planning system has been highly successful. It makes planning documents more accessible to members of the public and communities who want to find out what's happening in their area. Community councils, I'm very much aware, do get involved in local development plans, but that is not on a statutory basis in the way that they have a right to be a statutory consultee in planning applications. And of course, there's a huge range of other community groups out there who do get involved in planning, albeit on a non-statutory basis. Moving on, so what is the Planning Scotland Bill 2018 actually proposing with regard to community engagement? Well, not every proposal in the bill relates to community engagement. It does look at revising the local development plan preparation process without at the moment going into huge detail, but with the aim of having an evidence report stage and getting more collective buy-in from a range of stakeholders, including hopefully community councils, about key parameters for the preparation of the plan, which I think would be assumed to be housing numbers, but we're waiting for more information on how that will work, and obviously it's still a bill, not an act yet. From my perspective, probably the most interesting proposal in the bill with regard to community engagement is the introduction of a statutory right for community bodies to prepare local place plans. Local place plan is envisaged in the bill as a community-led plan, and community body will be defined in the bill. What's interesting about this, I think, is that it is a statutory right, and that's a slight change and shift within the planning system, whereby previously plans have been prepared by the local authority. However, I think what's crucial to note is that it will be essential that local place plans are prepared in partnership between community bodies and planning authorities. And you'll also see bullet pointed that the bill is proposing that local place plans must have regard to the development plan and the national planning framework. That's setting some parameters for how they will have to be prepared, but effectively there's not any, the bill, as the policy memorandum stated, the bill doesn't want to give a clear direction on what the plans should or shouldn't include and how they should be prepared. Essentially, we are waiting for further detail on this. Stage 2, a scrutiny of the bill will begin in the Scottish Parliament in September. I think a key question that's been raised in stage 1 is what will the status of the local place plan be? Will it be a material consideration? Will it be non-statutory supplementary guidance, or should it be part of the local place plan? I don't have answers for that at the moment, but those are matters that are being examined. From a PAS perspective, we would hope that there'll be support for less empowered communities to have the ability to prepare local place plans. And we're very interested in how spatial planning and community planning can align together to identify communities who might like to prepare a local place plan or collaborate in sharing information between community planning and spatial planning. I'm going to pass over to Rhiannon Moylan of Scottish Young Planners Network, who's going to look at some examples of engagement techniques, engagement projects, and we'll round up with some thoughts of where we see community engagement going, what the challenges and opportunities are.
Hi there, I'm Rhiannon Moylan, representing the Scottish Young Planners Network. As David has outlined, the new planning bill will have a huge impact on the community engagement and how this impacts the ways in which we, as planners, engage with communities. There are many frameworks for engagement which are available to planners in Scotland which help to engage communities in planning. PAS have created the SPEED training programme. SPEED, which stands for Successful Planning equals Effective Engagement and Delivery, is a benchmarking tool for community engagement. The programme provides a practical guide to undertaking effective community engagement and planning. The SPEED approach provides a clear and practical framework for carrying out engagement projects. It sets out 3 levels of engagement: informing, consulting and partnership, and 8 criteria by which projects can be designed, carried out and assessed. Another example of a framework for engagement is the Place Standard tool, which was a joint initiative led by NHS Scotland and the Scottish Government. The Place Standard tool provides a simple framework to structure conversations about place. It allows you to think about the physical elements of a place, for example, its buildings, spaces and transport links, as well as the social aspects, for example, whether people feel they have a say in decision making. The tool provides prompts for discussions, allowing you to consider all the elements of a place in a methodical way. The tool pinpoints the assets of a place as well as areas where a place could improve. Both these tools have been used successfully throughout Scotland to engage in community with planning. There are many examples of successful community engagement projects which have used a range of frameworks for engagement to deliver effective results. For example, the Cooper Cood project was a successful community engagement project held in the town of Cooper. The aim of this project was to make Cooper Town Centre the heart of a sustainable, contemporary market town, and to understand how the town centre can function better as a whole through the collaborative drivers of economic, social and cultural benefits. As well as this, it resulted in the production of a community booklet of proposals and a community action plan. This engagement project was a catalyst for a town centre heritage trail leaflet, and it left a lasting legacy for local action and community activity. This is a great example of where community engagement exercises have inspired the local community to take leadership and get involved in shaping their place. Another example of successful community engagement would be the Golden Glenrothes charrette. Here the aim was to engage specific neighbourhoods in Glenrothes and get the community thinking about the future of the place. In this example, the aim was to create a community-led plan focused on the improvement of the retail and community precinct, the Glenwood Centre. This project resulted in the creation of a community-led action plan, as well as a costed master plan for the Glenwood Centre, which 5 councils committed to moving forward. This is just a few of the achievement of this excellent example of community engagement exercise, which provided many benefits, including linking land use planning and community planning. Throughout Scotland, various engagement projects have been undertaken with a focus on widening participation beyond the usual suspects. The Your Kirkwall project was a series of meaningful community conversations where the whole community came together to discuss and share ideas for the future of Kirkwall. There was a particular effort to engage young people in this project, as well as local residents, community groups, local businesses and community planning partners, with the aim to share ideas, set priorities and create a shared vision for Kirkwall. The project provided the opportunity for volunteers, professionals, young people and the wider community to work together, and resulted in the development of a community-owned Kirkwall Urban Design Framework, which was supplementary planning guidance to the local development plan. The Falkirk Place Plan project was commissioned by the Falkirk Council Community Planning Partnership to design and facilitate a series of place standard workshops for the east locality area of Falkirk, an area of about 50,000 residents. This was also ran online and used the Place Standard app. The analysis and outcomes of this project was used by the Falkirk Council Community Planning Partnership to identify priorities and actions for the east locality in terms of place and services, and to develop local action plans. This engagement exercise resulted in the participants feeling listened to and involved in influencing local places and services, and provided the Falkirk Council Community Planning Partnership with the building blocks of a locality needs assessment and targeted area improvement plans. The In the Footsteps of Geddes project focused on the role of technology in getting young people to explore their place through digital tools. The project is based on Patrick Geddes' regional survey technique and his promotion of visual education. The project also employed the Scottish Government's Place Standard tool as a method of assessing and learning about place. The project explored the Geddesian approach of systematic learning about place through the regional survey and then conveying that information visually. The goal was to improve young people's engagement with the heritage of the area, introduce them to new technology, and to promote active citizenship. This was done to address the underrepresentation of young voices in planning debates, with a focus on various seldom heard groups such as young gypsy travellers, people facing limited opportunities, and young members of remote and deprived communities. The Bridging the Gap project in Cowdenbeath was a 6-month project run in partnership with the Beath High School and Fife Council, with a focus on engaging local people with their place. This project looked at intergeneration partnership and creating a dialogue with the community. As a result of this project, young people were more aware and equipped to participate in community council, local authority and national decision-making forums, understanding more fully the basis on which elected members make their decisions. Participants of different generations and backgrounds learnt to respect, value and incorporate opinions and ideas that are different to their own, and citizen confidence was increased, enabling active and effective participation in Scotland's planning system, bridging resilience and sustainability to the region. The Bridging the Gap project in Galashiels followed a similar framework as the project in Cowdenbeath. A short video is available which shows how the place standard tool was used in this project. From this, and all these examples, we can see the impact that successful community engagement can have in the planning system, from empowering communities to developing community action plans. Looking to the future of communication and planning, there's likely to be change ahead, with the focus on local place plans coming through the planning bill, the development and evolution of the place standard, and the continued alignment of community planning and spatial planning. I think the most important point would be to focus on the skills and knowledge we have developed and to take leadership and ensure that communities continue to have a role in shaping the planning system.